the picture I'm starting to put together is that really the best thing to do is acknowledge that there are people of color in the pool, acknowledge that there are internal unconscious biases, try as much as possible to recognize them as they come out, and maybe make sure that your panel is a nice mix. It's not just a panel of white folks who all share the same unconscious biases and assumptions.
Absolutely. I think it's really, I think, as you said, people feel like a little bit level of comfort when they take off some of those very common identification markers. But then they forget that there's still a 2 or 3 page resume, there's still a cover letter, there's still a richness of information. Then people, of course, are going to social media, they're going to LinkedIn, so they can get greater information about, what you look like and what else has perhaps not been included on your resume, and draw assumptions from there, and then determine, if they think you're a good fit for the organization. And I think that's another place where unconscious bias really plays, the biggest part is around this idea of fit. I can't tell you how many times I've been told, like, we're just not sure you're a good fit. We're just not sure that this is the right fit for you, or that, the culture is a good fit for you. And so it's really then kind of looking at what are the pillars of your organizational culture, and what does fit mean? Like, does fit mean somebody will come in and they won't be disruptive, and they won't have, a different way of doing things? And they, I mean, when people say diversity and then they say fit, it's almost contradictory, because it's like they want you to sort of just slip right in, and just everything is golden. But on the same token, they say, we want you to be a diverse in your approach and diverse in your thoughts, and those are sometimes the things that are opposite of fit. So thinking about, like, what does fit mean from an unconscious bias standpoint, and are we privileging people who are like us? Could we do an inventory of certain teams, or the organization, and see that a lot of people came from this same organization? That's not really diverse. So let's think about what that looks like. Like, why are we privileging that? And what is that doing to help us or to hurt our inclusive goals? Also thinking about, like, actual diverse candidate pools, and your capacity and appetite for diversity. I've certainly been in positions with my previous role where people are asking, like, yes, we want diverse candidates, we're really excited to bring in more women onto the team and sort of get that diverse thought that we're looking for. But then when you send them a portfolio of candidates, they say, okay, we want to talk to these 2 white dudes. And you're like, well, and they're like, yeah, we just didn't think the women were a fit. Well, then you're not really interested in having women on your team now, are you? So it really is like, matching up the words with the culture and with what you're trying to accomplish. And that is unconscious in some instances. And sometimes it's really conscious. People just want to look like they're doing the work, but they're not really interested in doing the work.
Right. I love that too, that you use the word disrupt uh, in terms of talking about culture, desired culture, and fit, because there is this narrative in business now that we want to disrupt the industry. We want to disrupt product development. We want to be the disruptors. And at the same time, I know that us white folks like to have our nice quiet offices where we just concentrate, and we have an assumption that having somebody in the office who is perhaps from a different culture than our own, they are going to be a disruptor in a very different sense, and that's uncomfortable. We don't want to have the noise. We don't want to have, we don't want to be confronted with something that's not perfectly comfortable.
Girl, I could tell you how many times, and this is literally the conversation I was having with one of my clients, telling you earlier, who does a lot of work in Black women leadership. And there is very much the sense, and it, that your mere presence is disruptive to the organization, to the team, that you just being there You don't have to do anything else, but you just being there and doing your job is truly disruptive. And, my very tacit example of that comes from working with a company where, again, I was, filling in for the director. I'm doing some very like high level statewide marketing campaigns. Uh, and it's such that like it's so involved that it's literally like 60 or 70 hours a week. So you just don't have any time to do anything at work but work. Like and that was very frustrating for me as well, because I couldn't really have the time to, go to the lunch and learns and get to meet more employees and get a better sense of, like what else is available here. But that notwithstanding, what I came to realize about a year and a half into the position was how disruptive my behavior and myself was, such that, there was a laundry list that was collected of complaints about my disruptive self, that had nothing to do with my work performance. It was, we don't like her hair. She has a shaved head. She's wears ethnic clothes. She speaks to people in a way that feels confrontational. This is the best one. She moved her computer screen to create a wall of separation between her and myself. And the HR manager entertained these discussions, provided them back to me, and told me that I was the problem and that I now need to go to career coaching so that I can fix myself and be less disruptive to my team and to the organization. And I obviously was like furious. I'm like, what? You're telling me this is what people are complaining about, and as the HR manager, you are entertaining that as an actual point of discussion. Like, that is borderline illegal, that you are entertaining that, and that the organization has taken steps for me to rectify the issue, right? So I need to do better at making other people feel comfortable with my presence. And that is frequently what women and people of color, especially people of color, are really asked to do. We're asked to make other people feel comfortable about our presence. And again, that's not something that we can own. And as an organization, that's not something that you should own. You shouldn't own this idea that the employees of color need to make the other employees feel better. As an organization, if you're creating an inclusive environment, then it is your role as the organization and those agents that operate in those capacities to identify the ways in which the organization is not allowing a space for people of color to sort of be themselves. Like, be themselves. That's it. Because and that was an instance where the organization should have stepped in and said, these aren't complaints that we will even entertain. Like, this is a non-issue. But instead they didn't. And I think, there's this pressure, like you said, to make white people feel comfortable, and therefore, excluded is the person of color because they are causing the discomfort. So it's easier to, ostracize and sort of push that person out or move them to make people feel comfortable by muting themselves than it is to deal with the discomfort of the larger cohort and creating greater discord in order to get to a more inclusive environment.